Right, give me 1 second to just pull it up. Sorry. And there we are. Okay, I'd like to call to order the Parks, Property and Streets Committee special meeting on Wednesday, August 19th at 11:01 a.m. Roll call, Houston here.
Arms here. Well, yeah.
I did talk to Mike, I know he's on his way. Okay, next up would be, approval for the agenda for today's meeting.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There are no minutes to approve from the prior meeting since this is a special meeting. Item 4, discussion action items. A, 2026 Parks and Streets Budget Review.
So just to frame this here, it was requested at the previous meeting to hold a special meeting to specifically review the budget. Prior to that time frame, Vlad, Eric, and I have worked on the budget. There's been significant strides in updating the information for the personnel budgeting component, which is included throughout the different portions of the park budget. We've also worked on including the different additions and subtractions that were proposed over by Eric. And then we also did work on reviewing the actuals from the previous year and modified some of the specific line items within the budget as well. So this is the most up-to-date version of the proposed budget. If you look at the summary categories, we're looking at the categories for public works, for culture, recreation. I'm just getting it here. Yep, so public works we're looking at culture, recreation, and education. And then we're also looking at the ice rink as well, just because that falls under the banner of Parks and Streets.
I had a quick question. Last time we did not look at the ice rink. But we did look at the last time. We did look at, I'm sorry, by last time I mean the last meeting, let's see. We did look at conservation and development, but I don't see that in the packet.
I was looking at it and there isn't a significant portion that would be attributed specifically for the department, and I can pull it up, but that is why it was printed, not printed this time around.
That's why we didn't include it.
Yeah, so there's not, there might have been 1 or 2 things assigned to Eric, but not, it isn't significantly under the banner of the department.
Why did we look at it last time and we're not looking at it this time?
I just was looking at it in terms of identifying what it was, if we did last time. And I guess we did, but I took a look at it and
We did, I
saw
have it.
what was assigned to Eric, and
We looked
this
at
is
it last
what is
time.
included under the banner.
It was in the packet last time, that's why, because I had some notes. Why didn't we look at the ice rink last time?
Just taking a peek at it, I can't really tell you for certain, I just included what was assigned to Eric. So is there any specific, so I guess in terms of framing what the review would be, so without being here from previous years, but we're looking at it holistically from what the numbers are for their summaries for the expenditures. And then we're also looking at it in terms of any specific questions on line items as well.
Understood. I just thought we were gonna look at the same thing we looked at during the last session. I did look at I did watch the video from the last meeting. I don't remember a discussion that we wouldn't, and I don't remember a discussion that we were gonna add ice rink. I'm not object. I just don't remember a discussion that we were adding ice rink, so we can move forward and we can, I think, probably begin with. Well, it's up to you. Where do you guys want to start? You start.
Well, so we can certainly start with what we're looking at in terms of any questions from a high level perspective on the summaries here. So, you know, when we're looking at it for the expenditure portion for public works, we're looking at 860,584. It's a little bit up than what it was.
Ben, where are you?
You just
So
take us
I
to
am
what
on
page
page
here?
9.
On
I'm
the-
looking under the expenditure portions.
In
for
the,
public
packet?
Works, yep.
Thank you.
So I'm looking under page 9, which is the general fund summary under expenditures. Specifically under the purview that we're talking about for public works, other recreation. And having on for the ice rink there, looking at it from the summaries, it's included on the specific sheets themselves, but when we're looking at it. There has been some slight increases from the previous year. But generally it has been consistent with what we're looking at for the growth of the budget itself. But if there's any questions at all.
So Ben, on expenditures, we're looking at public works. And in public works, you said is included the ice rink. But other culture and recreation is a separate category, and that
Yeah, so. if you're looking
I'm
at
trying to
general fund-
understand which. Of these accounts we should be looking at for the Parks and Infrastructure Committee.
Yeah, so we have specifically, so the majority of the items that are under the purview are public works. And then culture, recreation, and education. And then technically falling under the banner of the department, which was included this time, was for the ice rink as well. And Vlad, do you know where specifically that's included for the ice rink or the expenditures or the summary?
In the formula, just a second.
So public works, other culture and recreation, those are the two you're suggesting we should be looking at here for parks.
Yep, that is the majority of the banner for the Parks Department is under those categories.
So if I'm reading this correct, and I'm on page 9, right? Okay, so for public works. And we're not looking at the narrative at the moment, but if I'm reading that correctly. The budget for 2026 was 7, let's just look at 2025. For 2025, we spent, the actual was 751,180, so let's just round it to 751,2. And your budget for, the budget you're presenting for 2027 is 860,584, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and so what I think I would like to understand, if you guys could start to talk about why the budget is up. I believe at the last meeting, we did have a discussion, and the reason we're here today, because we're having an interim meeting, is because the budget, and I can pull it up, at the last meeting, the budget that was presented was up as well, 15%. And there was some concern because we had asked that budgets be planned flat. So it doesn't look like that happened here. So if maybe Ben, you could start off with just a brief explanation or you can
Sure.
explain it however you like.
Yeah, so just in terms of, let's just say, let's take an example of looking at it from last year. So when we're looking at it from last year, the way that this went, it was evaluated in July. Really, you can call it that for the most part, it was utilizing dummy numbers, nothing necessarily that was the actual that could be presented. Similarly, as we're working through the budget process, more and more information is included as part of this. So from the last time that this was presented, more information was included for personnel budgeting. If we can look at the personnel budgeting, and that was discussed last time, with some of the additional increases. There was additional increases just for staff because we're having additional time periods going up in the step. And then we also included additional time for Fall Fest and some other budgeted items as well. So part of it has to do with staffing for the component. And then if we're looking at it for other components, I'm just trying to highlight some of the additional proposed increases here. But the majority of that would probably be within the personnel budgeting category, specifically for public works. But let me just take a peek here and see if I can provide any additional.
So last time that when you presented at the 8-3 meeting, the budget you presented was 862,231. And today's budget is 860,584. So it was reduced by about 2,000. So is there any reason that you didn't, or you were unable, I'm sorry, to take it down, take it flat to 2025?
So, I mean, there's gonna be additional increases and we're not proposing reducing any specific services. I think there was an explanation if we're looking at the budget holistically. Yes, there has been an increase, but if we're looking at it based off of what the mill rate would be, it actually would be a proposed decrease of about 4.74% for the mill rate itself. So for what was proposed as part of the budget, you know, there's gonna be additional increases based on inflation, additional increases based off personnel budgeting. But the goal itself was from the budget as an entire document to essentially make sure that we maintain or decrease the mill rate.
Well, I never heard the mill rate thing. I mean, I want the mill rate to come down, but I think we talked spending. The finance committee talked spending, the parks committees talked spending.
That's
The mill rate's high. Our mill rate's the highest in northern Tor County. So that's nice that it's going down, but what's the impact on the levy?
So I mean, the impact on the levy itself, I mean, that's what we're looking at.
So it's the levy's gonna go down by 4%? Probably not, because the valuations are up. So we're
Well,
gonna
that's
have,
including, so when we're talking about the mill rate, we're talking about what the assessed value.
I'm with you, Ben, but here's the thing, right? These budgets are hard to look at because we make them a little more complicated than they need to be. That's nobody's fault, that's part of just the municipal process, I assume. But the issue is, we would like to be in these meetings talking about flat spending year over year, and then where do we need to make investments over and above that? There's no peanut butter that we put over this to take advantage of extra dollars that could become available from a revaluation or from a reduction in mill rate that still generates a higher levy that may or may not increase the taxes people pay. So I get that, but you know, we got to find a way to simplify this. When I look at this, if the two departments that we're responsible for on this committee are Public Works and other culture and recreation, if I have that right, I thought that's what you said. It says that our spending, our budget in 26 was 1,155,082. And we're asking in this budget for that to be increased to $1.43 million. If I have that right. If I have it wrong, please correct me. That's a substantial increase. Somebody's got to pay for that. I'm on page 9 and I'm just looking at those two departments. Whoops, that's Siri talking to me.
Oh, she's talking back.
Yeah.
I think we're just struggling with forgetting the mill rate. With you providing a reasonable answer for why 2 weeks later, you're presenting a budget that is still 15% higher than 2025 for Public Works. Let's just focus on Public Work. It's the biggest piece of it. So why you're presenting a budget that's 15% over the prior year?
And let me just.
I
make
understand that
sure-
that the salary piece is high. So that would be an indication to me that then you needed to take it away from other categories,
Mhm.
if the salary piece is high.
Yeah, and Vlad, I just want to make sure when looking at it for Public Works, looking for the summary on page 19, that it's 885,000 approximately for the 2026 budget that was included there, and then on the summary, it's somewhat different. Is that linked in properly?
looks like the budget 2026 probably not, but 2027 looks like it is still, because it's 860, 584, and that 745 billing was broken for 2026.
Okay, so let's just,
There is actually a decrease, sort of.
yeah, so if we're looking at it actually, so we can't trust, again, this is part of the problem with having the spreadsheets is that things can be broken over the process, but if the number on page 19, if we're looking at it for what was budgeted, it was
We're on 19 now, not 9.
not 9, because that is not linked apparently, but in terms of the total expenditures that were proposed for the 2026 budget, it was $885,000, approximately 886, let's just round up. And so if we're looking at it in comparison to the 2027 budget, this actually would be down. It's higher than what was the actuals for 2025. But this would be decreased from what we're looking at from the proposed 26 budget.
It's no decrease. Don't even use that word. 860, okay, is what's proposed in 27. What we spent last year was 789.
It's up 9%.
So again, it would be the committee's purview if they wanted to make any recommendations from what was provided to specific line items to provide reductions or services that would be decreased, or we can certainly answer in context of what's being proposed, but Eric did include what his proposed additions and reductions were for his
So
department.
I'm gonna suggest, Vlad, I'm gonna suggest that that was what you were to do. That was your task. Your task, after reviewing a budget on August 3rd that you presented, that was $862,231 for Public Works against a current budget of $745,700 and the prior year of $751,200. We asked, okay, we need to meet in another couple of weeks. We didn't feel comfortable sending it on to finance. And we asked that you go back, look at it, take another look at it, work on it, and get it back to flat to 25. And I think what I'm hearing you say is that you didn't do that. Well, it's apparently you didn't do that, and you're asking us what services we'd like to cut. Am I hearing that right?
Well, we proposed
Am I
specific
hearing that
decreases.
correctly? I'm just asking. You asked us what we would cut. Is that what you said?
Well, I'm saying in terms of if we're looking at decreases, is that specifically,
Decreases to what?
you're saying to the budget, if you're trying to
No.
get it to the actual?
We have always given direction at the last meeting that it needed to be flat. Flat was to last year. So I think you just said to us, and you said it in the prior meeting too, because I listened to that meeting this morning. Where would you like to cut? What services would you like to cut? In your role as administrator, that is your responsibility to work with, in this case, Eric, the supervisor, on making those decisions and making those reductions. It honestly doesn't look like you did that, unless we are all missing something.
So I do not think that it would necessarily be reasonable to say that you're going to have it be flat with the inflation and providing the services of what's there. Just from a personnel perspective in general, other services would need to be cut to compensate for any proposed increase for personnel. So in terms of having it be proportional to the increase that we're looking at for the assessed value, and from a holistic view of the budget, it is looking well. And Vlad, if you want to provide any additional context.
So just to clarify, you don't think it's possible?
So
Nate, you can weigh in.
what I'm hearing you say, Ben, is you think that this is the lowest amount that we can get to on this budget without reducing services. This is the lowest number you're comfortable with without saying it's gonna impact the village's service delivery. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I mean, we updated the personnel budget from what was available. We took a look at the line items and specifically identified whether or not there would be feasible to provide any reductions. And generally, from what we're looking at, it was something where I wouldn't necessarily recommend decreasing a significant amount in what was being proposed. Unless we are gonna be looking at potentially reducing the services that are provided for the village.
So I think that one thing that I think I am not comfortable with, and I think has really had some negative consequences for the board and for the village and caused us a lot of challenges, has been looking at that mill rate as, okay, we're gonna have a mill rate decrease. When we're looking at this, I understand from a municipal perspective, that's what matters to you. But what the average person out on the street looks and says, this is what we're paying the village of Sister Bay. So I think that's what we need to look at. Like to Mike's point, it's spending. And maybe we can't get that down. Maybe we're not willing to make those cuts to services. But it doesn't seem like we've got, if that was really the case, I guess what I would have hoped is you would have come up and said, okay, well, these are the options you can come up with. If you want to get to that number, you're gonna have to give up this. That would be a reasonable thing to ask us. I mean, I understand that we've got to make the hard choices and we're ultimately the ones who are responsible for this. But we need some help understanding it and help making those changes. And I did think we gave a fairly clear direction last meeting, saying we want to get this down to flat and it doesn't seem like it's close to that. So we don't have time to do another meeting. What do we want to do right now? I've got a number of questions about this, but I don't know where we land on this.
Can I point out a few
Sure.
things? So,
Sure.
first of all, I would like to take you back to 2025, why we landed on those numbers. There was less people worked in 2025. And that's why the numbers like lowered towards the budget. We still budgeted for 4 full-time employees and 1 part-time employees with benefits, but not part-time though. That's why there is like fluctuation between actuals and budgeted. I don't know how things going to unfold in 2027, but at least it answers the questions why actuals for 2025 is much lower than 2027 budgeted.
Well, look, lad, right? If we look at any of these categories, right? At the end of 22, we spent 636,000.
What page are you?
I'm on page 19, the one Ben asked us to go to. And the end of 23, we spent 753. We dropped it a little at the end of 24, and that was after a lot of action in the budget process, right?
Correct.
The 25 actual at the end of the year was 789, right? And we're going from 789 to 860. Now, and a causal, which would have helped here, you tried that, but a causal should only have 10 items on it. And what we want to see are what are the 10 items or 5 items or 6 items that are causing us to go from 789 to 860. Maybe personnel is one of them. At least we could understand that. All right. But personnel might be one, healthcare might be another. I don't know. But if I look at the list you gave us, you got $61,000 worth of cuts and you got 65,000 of deductions. Yeah, you know, you can categorize, you could bunch those together into bigger categories. Personnel spending, because the granularity is not necessary here. It's the variances, the differences, the increases that we really need to understand, because I think Nate explained it well. If you want more money, tell us that you're keeping the spending flat, but these are the areas where we have to make some difficult decisions, where either we cut services or we add dollars to the budget, or we add to this budget and we ask finance to go take from someone else. Because, I mean, it is, so in this one category, right, this category total public works expenditures, which I'm not sure if we're supposed to be looking in the culture budget too.
We are.
Okay, so the total of those two were up 15%, and I think they're up, at least as they're described earlier in this deck, by about 22% in this report. So, is that right?
To the point, but if you.
But
take
the
a look-
page is broke, is that?
No, what I'm trying to point out, if you take a look at the bottom of the page 19, you can track it down, causes of those increases, decreases. And the services over the year, starting from 2024, actually, I mean, also increasing, but you can clearly point out toward the wages and benefits. And the other thing, when parks claiming their time or recording their time, it varies. So one week you guys can spend so much time in parks, the other week in the streets. And it's sort of balanced out with variance year after year after year, but the variance can be higher.
So I'm with you, and you pointed me out to an excellent part of this page, right? So wages, Ben, in this parks budget, we spent $21,000, $221,000 last year. We're proposing a budget, this is under your 860 number, that increases it by, it looks like it's about $3,000. Benefits are up about another $4,000. So we have $7,000 worth of increases related to people and benefits, that I get. But there's no causal on services. Services is up, what, $43,000, $42,000?
Well, operating and maintenance, look at that.
But I'm just saying, it's a pretty big number, 347 to 390. Operating and maintenance is up,
20%.
well, from 83 to 98, yeah, that one's up too. And capital outlay, I'm not sure what that is. So I actually don't know what services are. I don't know what's in the operating and maintenance, but in the puts and takes that you identified on that first page, there's only a $7,000 difference between deductions and additions. And that, when you're zero-based budgeting, would usually be the difference in the budget. So I thought I'd see that 7,000 as the increase, but that's not the case.
The other thing to consider, I did go back and look at what percent of the actual spring was in 2025 as a percent of the total. And I also went back and looked at 24, what percent of our spend was in the first half. So for 24 and for 25, on average, if you looked at it as 100%, right? So in 2025 for Public Works, we spent $789,623 for the year, right? For the first half of 2025, we came in at 345,810. That was 43.8, let's just call it 44% of the year. So for Public Works, for the last 2 years, in general, it's been a 44-56 split. 44% in the spring, 56 in the fall. For culture, it's been 49, 41 roughly, and 41 and what's that, 59% split. So if I applied those percentages, you're gonna come in under budget on both. Again. So I know that we want some fluff, but right now, if you just apply those percentages, Public Works is gonna come in at 860. I'm not saying it's a perfect science, and culture is gonna come in at 450. Public Works is currently budgeted at 885. Again, they're gonna come in at 860. And culture is gonna come in at, on a budget of 509, they're gonna come in at 450. Again, you could have a swing a little one way or the other, and I know it's not perfect, I'm not suggesting that at all. That is a run rate that's been happening for 2 years. You can go back and calculate the same thing in 23 and the same thing in 22. Now, you could add more people, and you can also say, but the STEP program went into place in 23. So that run rate's gonna be pretty similar for 24 and 25. So you could also say that, but it just speaks to, like, I'm getting off track. I just want to add that, that's all. I'm getting off track because it speaks to a different way to do budgeting for future. But to Mike's point on wages and why it was difficult to cut, it doesn't look like wages went up a lot for public works. So I don't know how valid that is.
So if we're looking at it based off the actual, so Vlad is saying that essentially because there wasn't fully utilized, that it is different from what was there for the 25 actuals because it was not utilized for the majority of the year and quite a bit of that. So if we're essentially saying that a fourth person would have been budgeted, not only just their compensation, but also all of their benefits that are also have a
Sure.
tangible value as well. You know, that is a significant portion. And then it just depends, like if we can cut everything down to what it exactly is, and it wouldn't leave any room for an additional contingency, but you know, I don't necessarily think that that would be the thing to do with some unknowns, but
I mean, Benny's come in typically all the time for us between 54 and 56% of gross wages. Just what it is, right? They're not hard to forecast. They have for the last 4 years.
But,
So so if you know what your gross wages are gonna be, I mean, that's fully loaded. If you know what your gross wages are gonna be, that's pretty easy to.
but we budgeted for a fourth person that hasn't been utilized. And it hasn't been utilized for any seasonal staff as well.
Okay, and but if you just looked at actual,
and we also adjusted toward, changes that were, went into effect at the end of, 2025, as far as like full fest hours and things like that. So those were sort of adjusted.
okay, but it's still it all comes out of the total, right? It's all there in the total, isn't it?
And it kind of broken down based on allocation, so that's why some of the, categories.
I get that, but it's all put into public works, isn't it? You didn't move it out of public works, did you? For Fall Fest?
It's based on, percentage of allocation.
Right.
It's hard to point out exactly where the guy's gonna be working at this.
I completely understand that. I know that's hard. But support for Fall Fest, where you can move it around within categories, but it's still all in the public works budget, right?
To some extent, yeah.
Well, no,
Where else would it be?
so some of it goes, like a portion goes to Marina, some goes to.
Is that different
I
in
mean,
this
the Fall
budget than the
Fest,
prior
yes,
year?
But the other things.
I'm just asking about Fall Fest.
Yes, it's gonna be in the
Okay.
public works.
Guess where I'm getting a little off track mentally is because
Sure.
when I looked at this, I mostly looked at 25 actuals.
Yeah.
Ignored 26 actuals, and if we're trying to project flat, just focused on 25 actuals versus 27 budget.
Mhm.
And like, I think, Mike, you pointed out earlier, the big gap is not in wages, benefits and personnel. There's small differences there between the blue and red numbers. The big gaps are in, looks like the Gateway Park, other contracted services, the weed control, like those are the big adders.
I would call those controllable expenses.
And so is that back to the things that you would want us to look at cutting, Ben, to get it, because that's the new ads, I think and maybe it was talked about last meeting, but the electrical upgrades for the shop, that one kind of surprised me. It's a new building. How in the world did they not design it for what it was needed for? It was another adder that was a decent amount of something needed that was unexpected.
So I mean, ultimately, if we want to bring it down to the actuals, I mean, that is something that we can do, but it does not provide any wiggle room for if there was any.
Well, I'm not saying bring it down to the actuals, but that's where I zeroed in on places where a big change happened.
Well, let's
And-
speak to at least a couple of those things. What's going on with upgrades to electrical in a brand new building?
So they installed a mini 5-gallon water heater on the back part of the shop. The thing basically runs out within 5 minutes when you're trying to wash the snow off the trucks. It was just missed in the overall plan as far as that. The only problem is it runs off of standard 120. So to upgrade another electrical 50-gallon that needs 240, you need to run a 240 back there from the main electrical area and then purchase a water heater.
Were you doing that in the other building?
Yeah.
what happens if we don't wash the trucks off this year with hot water? I mean, it takes a while.
It just takes longer, just takes longer to wash them with the smell off of them and the salt.
Okay, next question would be, what? And again, this is, I'm asking a question Jerry just asked, sorry, would be weed control. We spent $3,800 in 25. We've spent so far for the year 1,300 and you're budgeting 16,500. Is there a reason it's 16,500?
So the gardener comes out of that, there was requests to expand his services into 2027. Specifically, taking on Gateway's schoolhouse,
Oh,
redoing
this
that.
is if he did that you put that in weed control, okay?
Yes, that would be in weed and nursery control. That's what his budget and also Bob Holtman's come out of for the beach.
So did Bob Boltman do any work this year?
Yes, yeah, he gave me a ballpark. He's about 25. He usually submits at the end of the year.
So if he's 2,500 and you have 14 in, you're gonna come in at 3,900 or so on a budget of 7,000?
For 26?
Mhm.
26, he's not doing Gateway this year. We're budgeting for next year on that.
I'm just looking at weed control. You have a budget of 7,000, you spent 1,350, and if Boltman's the only one that is outstanding, you'll come in under budget.
Well, it's also the gardener purchased all those flowers too out of that one as well.
I think one of the issues we have here is that we just don't have good alignment between what the board, the finance committee, and the Parks Department is asking administration to do. I mean, I don't know why, but apparently we haven't been clear. This would have been a more effective budget if we just look at the 860, right? The 860 is about $71,000 more than what we actually spent last year. What would have helped is if the staff looked at that $71,000 and said, make their own cuts up front on things they knew probably wouldn't get approved. Get that down to whatever the real number difference is, which would include salaries, benefits, things that are kind of fixed, that are gonna go up no matter what. Tell us how much of the 71 that is. And then tell us what's really important in addition to the wages and benefits that you'd want to have, so we can make a decision and either recommend, yeah, we do it or we don't. That would make this process much simpler. I don't need to know, I mean, I personally don't think we should be washing the trucks with hot water under any circumstances, but I don't want to be involved in that decision, right? That's more detail than I think you want us involved with. I would try to keep this at what's the big number changes. And right now we're asking for $71,000 more than we actually spent last year. There might be some numbers in here that just have to stick. And there might be some that we can reduce. That would be where I thought we were going to lead to with this recommendation. Basically come in with a flat budget of 790 and then say on top of that 790, we need $8,000 for salary and benefits, and then we got a punch list of things we'd like to have here. And it's not easy for me to find that and to say that I agree or I disagree. And until I do, I would just say the number's got to be flat.
You gotta take $72,000 out of the budget. And culture, sorry.
What page is that on, Louise? I'm sorry.
25.
25.
That is a place where wages are up significantly.
So Eric, when was it not effective for fourth person on the team? For public works?
When was it?
Yeah, so essentially, when did it start for the 3-man team?
So that was started in, I believe, 2025. We had a staffer move over to utilities.
Mhm.
And me and Julie had discussions of trying to go with 3 full-time staffers. to see how that would work out for the department. The decision was also made by the committee that, if it didn't work out, that, we should keep that money budgeted. And then, going into the 2025 season, there was, some additional stresses and everything like that, the guys. We tried to compensate by giving them, a boost up in their pay and everything like that. There was talk over the winter of them wanting additional for. We had more conversation to try to see if we could try a part-time summer position. Unfortunately, we didn't get any takers this year on that. And there is still like talk of them wanting to have reduced overtime on the weekend for another full-time guy to come in, and then just the overall help during the busy time of the season when it's actually really needed to have that additional personnel here.
So I mean, realistically, if we're looking at. If that is the legitimate direction to say that it's gonna be going down to the actual. And then with the understanding that it's the increases for the personnel. I mean, it would go down as part of it. I wouldn't be able to fully go down to what it would be unless there was a reduction within the personnel budgeting for staff.
Can I mention something?
Sure.
I guess, again, taking back to 2025, one of the ways to reduce your guys' workload is to probably like isolate out what can be automated and what can be substituted to simply, I guess, robomowers. And unpackaging last year discussion, we talked with Ben about this. Things getting bulletproof as far as like robomowers. That could be huge cost reduction potentially. And to some extent, that doesn't even have to be capital budgeted. Eric can pilot few areas like by some of the Walmart sold ones, which comes with product insurance. And we can just try it out before we invest in like $50,000, $60,000 to $100,000. We can go with $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 initially, and then potentially can reduce labor. I don't know.
So thank you, Vlad, for pointing out, like, what you did what we asked you to do there. You're pointing out areas where we can save money, which is exactly what we're looking for. So I appreciate that. When I was looking through here for things to cut, I had a couple of questions. One, we allocate $1,000 a year to the bike trail for electricity. How does that work? What's the logic behind it, or did I misread that?
What page?
So just while we're looking for that, so on this page, just so we're all clear,
Where are you, son?
on page 25. From our actual spend last year to what we're proposing in next year's budget,
This
it's
is
a
culture
36.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a 36% increase, $147,000.
Yeah. And
wages is a big chunk of this one, to Ben's earlier point. This was an added person, I believe, right? Is that what, because wages go from 115,000 to 181,000 in the
They're up
budget.
50%.
Pardon me?
They're up 50%. Well, more than that, actually.
Are you talking the whole department?
No, wages.
Oh, yeah, wages go from, if I'm reading it right, it goes from 115 to 181.
Bottom of page 24,
Am I missing something?
CRE bike trail.
Oh, you're looking, okay, sorry.
No, I'm just like,
Okay, sorry.
I'm answering
Yeah,
that
I
question.
interrupted you. I apologize. Please continue.
but that, I was just answering, so I can start.
Yeah.
So how do you figure out what wages go to culture, recreation, and education, and what goes to public works? And why is public works basically flat, and the wages for culture, recreation, and education up 50%, 60%?
That's remind, based on conversation with Eric and Ben and myself, and looking into actuals and historical practices, I guess that's only in the budgeting.
Well, it doesn't make any sense to historical practices,
I mean,
right?
you can tell like in 2024 was different. Again, it totally depends how they work and how they clock in their time.
Okay. Okay, so here's
Yeah, I
another,
can-
here's another way to look at it. How about this? Another way to look at it would be to add wages. Combine them, right? Add the wages for culture, add the wages for, public works, right? So add them together where we're, so let's see where the actual was for 25. And then let's see where the budget is for 27. Okay,
Does it matter to this committee? I mean, it doesn't seem for our overview.
doesn't matter,
It
but
doesn't matter how it's allocated. I
it's
understand
still-
Flag
it
to
doesn't.
track it.
right, but I just wondered if, again, you're right, the allocations mean nothing, but combined, they're up,
I'm agreeing with you,
yeah.
Louise. I'm agreeing
So
with you,
if
what
the
you're saying.
total, yeah, if the total totals up 15%, it hasn't moved, the budget didn't change, we're seeing the same budget we saw 2 weeks ago. So if it's up 15% and wages look like even combined are probably up 5 or 10%, but it's a big percent of the total, so it weights everything.
So
You know, it does, with the exception of the other big part of it, bigger than wages for culture, rec, and education is services.
at the end of everything, it's the number of I mean, the sum of wages just allocated out, it's still gonna be the same amount, the
Mhm.
same
I
number.
understand.
I mean, probably adjusted based on actual work and, but again, the same amount just allocated out. And yes, there are deviances, there are like errors potentially in allocating out because it's hard to guess where they're gonna work next year most. And it just following again practice.
I don't think there's any expectation that this committee is gonna say, okay, Eric, we want your people to work more on this item than this item. We're more or
Oh,
less
I'm
saying.
not suggesting.
No, I'm just saying, like, this is why for our purposes, this was summarized, that would be far more effective for us, far more meaningful.
Absolutely. We just need to know what's the difference between the end of last year and what you want to spend now in ranked order of importance that you need to have. One would probably be salary increases and benefit increases that we can't do much about. We can cut in other areas if we want to try and keep our department budgets flat, but we're not even we can't even have that discussion because we have to build that chart on the fly here.
My other concern is that if in fact you come in under budget for culture, if you come in around 450, let's say you come in at 475. Okay, that's gonna be your actual for 26. And if you keep the budget of 553 for 27, you're up even more. To actual for 26. Cause it's looked like you're tracking to be under budget. So we're gonna have to make some cuts to culture, rec, and education, and if it can't be wages, it's gotta be someplace else, and same with, which is, culture is really the bigger problem in terms of just the raw dollars, and same with public works.
So do we wanna go through some line items?
I don't know how else, I mean, it's because
So we will just do,
that's what we thought we were gonna do. This was unexpected.
So can I throw something out there? I
Sure.
started asking, I had a couple list of questions. I understand that electric was kind of out of left field, but.
Yeah.
Am I not mistaken that our memorial supplies are going up by almost $17,000 this year?
Mhm.
That's what the budget is. I mean, like, love that concept, but if we don't have money to spend, that's probably a place where we need to decrease it.
You're talking about the benches?
Yeah.
But aren't those offset? Like, all of these are not repairs to existing benches, they're replacement with a re-up of a contract. It should have been offset by
So if
money
it,
fee
coming
which we
in.
took up-
That's what
We took
that
the
was
fee
one
up
of
to
my
3%.
questions. I didn't
Yeah.
understand.
if it's offset, then it's not really the expense there. That, yes. So.
Yeah,
it-
But I
it's
didn't
not-
see any income in here for that to understand why that's not offset, because it really should be 3,000 per bench coming in. 1,400 or whatever per edge going out, and this should have been a net the other way, not a big negative adder.
Yeah, I mean, it's up 420%. The other question I've got is the utilities, like, we're at what, 9,000. $948 on electric and gas on a 2026 budget to 7,500. I'm looking at page 24 still. Electric, gas. I presume that's gotta have to do with that new building. And then maybe we just didn't adjust the budget last year, but that's. And I know that you can have some variation on when your tanks get filled, and that can push you one year or the other, but that's. That is it's a big number and we're still
Saying
budgeting.
our actual is way beyond.
There are a couple things that affected, your late fills should be 2025, but it got filled and
Sure.
billed in 2026, so that's part of it.
Mhm.
And yes, it covers two buildings, you know. So
But-
that's why the variance is like that.
But then how can our 27 budget be $7,500 on that?
Exactly.
That's,
Correct. Needs to be adjusted.
Cause if it's a 41% split, you're gonna come in at 24 grand for that line item, and you won't, cause you're right, there'll be a time where, you know, where they're gonna fill late, and it's gonna happen in 27 again, so. The budget needs to be adjusted, yes.
and that's gonna push the budget up higher, but the other thing, I think I've mentioned at some point, I'm not sure if it was at Parks or where it was, but. Having these contingencies in every category. Has a lot of money that's out there that is nebulous, and I think that we do need to have a contingency, but we should be declaring that as, this is the line item of contingency. And that may be a challenge for you, Vlad, when we allocate it. But I mean, instead of having $500 in 100 places, maybe we have $20,000 in one place.
I do not disagree with you.
I think that's a great idea.
But there is something to that though. When everything gets reported with DOR, they report as sums of categories. And they do drill into the accounts though, not always, but like this year they did. And they asked me to report, and Ben was copied on that email, why and what happened in each account. So if, let's say, we moved contingency into somewhere else, and we're just gonna say like, hey, this is, explain why all those contingencies happen, they will ask the question why it's not separated out. I mean, agree, so much less work, so much more.
So why it's not put into a specific budget?
So I guess I would.
Why it's lumped together as a contingency budget? Is that why? They'll ask questions about that.
Yeah, they will ask that, and they will suggest.
Why it's not a good practice, is that why?
Because again, they want to make sure we do categorize our spendings.
Uh-huh,
It's just, at some point, I don't know 100%, but at some point, that's how they reimburse you back. For like all those
okay.
extra.
For their
items.
reporting purposes, yeah.
Yeah, and then when it comes to each account, they put the microscopic view.
So what happens if we've allocated it there and then we underspend in one and we overspend in another? I mean, do we then reallocate that when we report to the DOR? And how is that gonna be any different than, I'm understanding it probably would be more work to have that contingency, but it'd be much clearer and much simpler to communicate to us and to the village residents. You know, how is it any different than that? And I mean, as I think you've mentioned, Vlad, like, it's kind of surprising how much of municipal budgeting is an art and not a science. There's not one way to do it. There's a number of ways to do it that there's best practices, but
What CLA team told me personally many times that our budget is one of the best put together budgets out there. At least that's what Amber, I'm pretty much quoting her.
Yeah, I've heard her say that, but I don't agree with her.
I also disagree with that. I mean, like, from their perspective, it may be
Further,
great.
yeah,
but-
I mean, and it's no disrespect, and it's no. I don't mean that as a criticism of any of our staff. she's of that opinion because we put big numbers out there that we don't exceed. And, you know, good budgeting is accuracy.
100% agree.
So, Jerry, I gotta ask because you're a little quiet and I respect your opinion. What do you think of what's going on here? Do you have any suggestions? I would appreciate your input.
I mean, my only thought was the line by line pieces. That's what I did going into it beforehand. I obviously didn't have the benefit of the discussion you guys had
Mhm.
last meeting.
Right.
I mean, it sounds like there were some asks that maybe weren't necessarily met. And I just did my own line by line thing and went, you know, why the memorial benches?
Okay.
Why is BAA spend on wages up so much, you know, those kind of things, but
I mean,
it feels like we're circling.
yeah, so I mean. If we aren't, but if we were in business. We would have reached the point where the senior executive would have said, okay. Set the budget at flat plus 1%, or set the budget at flat. And outline your asks so they can be considered with the other asks of the other department that are incremental spending.
Well, what are the impacts?
And what are the impacts, the
Yeah.
causal? Yes, thank you.
And then usually that executive would pick through this impact's unacceptable, this impact's
Yeah.
acceptable kind of thing.
Mhm.
Was our direction, I thought our direction was flat plus CPI. Was that not what we?
I don't know if it was for salaries, it was, I don't know that it was CPI for all budgets. And I'm thinking of finance right now, I'm not, and finance would have got their direction from the board,
Yeah, for sure.
I thought it was just, I thought the CPI was
The
on,
CPI had only had, and it had nothing to do with anything except salaries.
Okay.
that was
I
my,
remember the CPI being involved.
Yeah, CPI was just purely for COLA and figuring out what COLA would be. And we gave the same amount of COLA this year as we did, we plan on anyway, for 27 as we did for 27.
Lots of our bills adjusted toward inflation too. So for example, garbage, their fuel charges went up. Great.
Right.
Like other vendors, they adjusted.
well, I mean, I appreciate you bringing that up now, but that should have been on the causal list. I mean, that should have been when we were looking at the $147,000 of increase in culture and recreation. I guess that would have been in the other one. How much is that? How much is it? What is it, that amount? Is that $5,000 more? Is it 20,000? I mean, those things should be on the list so we know what happened.
I would say.
And I didn't see it in the plus and minus list either.
When I'm looking at the going garbage bill, I feel like I have to go back to college again. Because the biggest confusion ever comes out from understanding their charge, and we ask.
Again, we're getting into the weeds here. I respect that that's a challenge in your role. I'm just trying to understand $147,000 increase in culture and recreation and a $60,000 increase in the rest of the parks budget.
And we're not hearing anything from our administrator on any solutions. So if we want to go line by line to get this done, because the packet for finance is due this coming Tuesday or Wednesday at the latest. Because our finance meeting is a week from Monday. So we have to deliver, we don't have any time. We're out of time. So, we can go line by line and
I didn't bring the individual accounts. Is that what this is?
no, that's the general.
Okay,
So we can certainly go through and we can have it be what it is for the actual. Again, if we're looking at it holistically from what the entirety of the budget is, you know, it is looking, you know, pretty well, right? In terms of revenues, it is generally consistent for property taxes of what we were looking at from the 26 budgeted year. And then we are also looking at it in terms of expenditures. We have basically no transfers or other expenses that were put in for the 27 budget. And we have a significant increase holistically for expenditures and. I wouldn't recommend going down significantly, but it could drop property taxes. You know, by a very significant portion if we wanted to. But again, that would impact the long-term capacity of levy limits in the future. So. Yes, if we're looking at it from a department perspective. It has increased, but if we're looking at it as a budget total. It is looking well.
So this committee is tasked with looking at this particular portion of the budget. So I appreciate what you're saying is looking at the totality of the budget, but that's not what we're here for. We're here to look at this piece of the budget, and that's what we've got to look at here, and that's what we're trying to review. I understand what you're saying, Ben, but this is the Parks, Properties and Streets. We're looking at the Parks, Properties and Streets budget. We're not looking at the whole thing. When Luis and Mike get to go to finance, they get to do that. But right now, we're just talking about this portion of the budget.
So I think since we're halfway through our allotted time, and we've kind of set the stage, I think, from where we're at. Like, do we just wanna go through a list? Of things, like I could go for the cultural one, memorial benches. I don't think that should be a budgeted item, it should be offset by something else.
Jerry, if you've
actual
gone through the
inputs and-
detail, I'm good with just following your lead, but you gotta tell me what page you're on.
So this is the 24,
In the packet.
is the 24 is the other, right?
24 is
The
what?
cultural,
That's cultural recreation education.
Okay.
It starts there. No, it doesn't start there, actually.
yeah, my list, I didn't list the exact page.
No, it's fine. It's cool. Okay.
So for the memorial benches. That should be offset by income and not have to be in a net expenditure, I wouldn't think. So to me, that's, 19,000 or 20,000 or whatever off the bat. The SBAA overtime, it projects like 12,000, now I'm back on page 20, I think, Mike.
Okay, thanks.
It projects like 14,000, hold on, let me find it, or 13,980.
987, yeah.
Yeah, well, 13,987 for full-time wages, up from 8,700 in 2025 actuals. And the overtime projects from 945 in 2025 actuals to 12,000 something.
It's enormous
I'm-
change.
yeah,
Are
I'm
you
not-
planning on doing a lot more
well-
work for the SBAA at Fall Fest?
So-
That's the double time paid on call and other things.
Okay,
So I would just say,
for overtime, but
I would guide the
Oh.
SBAA that we're not
So
gonna
when-
spend all that in overtime and they need to manage within their
So
budget.
that's not, I mean, when we're talking about it, it's not SBAA, it's the allocation that's put from employees to the SBAA category, so
Just support them.
we support them. So let's just take an example. This is for Parks and Street folks, right? So everything, this is their amount.
So that's
that
not
they have.
SBAA itself, it's Eric's guys helping out the SBAA. In which case, the amount we're having to help them is going up dramatically, and I don't think the amount of events has changed materially.
In
So,
fact, it's decreased.
yeah, so to
actually,
me,
no,
that was
not what they
another
help with,
surprise.
because they don't help with Film Fest. But you're not,
Cherry
gonna-
drop.
but you're not gonna help with Cherry Drop and that.
Just tell me what changed from last year to this year that would drive
Well, and
$5,000.
I'm not sure we even need to dig into that.
Yeah.
I think at our level, we could just say,
No,
we're not gonna support that increase in overtime, figure it out. And then the comeback might be, we need this overtime for this specific reason and a budgetary allowance. I mean, just the memorial benches, the SBA overtime, and then, we talked a lot about parks staffing, so SBA support overtime, but other park staffing. Budget items and the wage growth and just managing that. And then back to the,
We talked, but also general supplies. Did you mention that?
well, now are you back on the parks area?
No,
Or the-
Memorial supplies, you talked about, but the number just above that,
Which, are you on 20,
I'm on 22.
22?
And the number just above memorial supplies, which was 20,800. Just above that is general supplies.
Increased by 5,200.
Well, it's honestly, it's down to 2025, but we're not gonna. We'll
There's a big jump 24 to 25. There's
Right, but-
not, there's a very small spend in that category this year.
Right,
The budget looks like a seesaw for some reason.
right. Not sure, because we don't know what's in it, but.
And what are memorial supplies?
It's the benches.
Yeah. I don't get
Where
why
is the revenue captured for memorial supplies for when we receive a contract? Is that in just general government that's received?
And it may have been a while since we had one last, because there was a moratorium on new benches for a long time
Yeah.
while we worked out those details.
I believe so. So in general government, I believe charges for public. let's see. Charges for public service memorials, is that what it is?
I'm sorry, what account you looking?
So I'm looking at 46000. For memorials, is that the memorial benches?
And that's the category. um,
Five
For the
five
revenue
200 355. So expend.
Yeah, it's going to be under memorials, 46, it's 100, 46161000. But, there were not much activities in that account,
What's budgeted for it for 27?
so far, $3,000.
That's a miss.
It is a miss then, because I did not receive any communication on how much we should budget,
Okay.
so what is potential?
Well, if we're gonna spend 21,000 roughly on supplies for them, we should at least break even, so we should have revenue of 21,000, or we aren't doing it.
Well, I think this was broken down at like 16 benches or something,
Yeah.
That's what I saw.
and so it should be
16 times 3 is
3,
48,000.
yeah. I was also gonna ask why only 16, but that seems like a different
So 42,000.
discussion.
I'm sorry, Jerry, keep interrupting me, keep going.
Well, I was just gonna move to back to the first category.
Just
That we were
give me your
talking
page
about.
number and I can find you.
I think this is back to 19.
Okay.
Now I know, I need to write every page number down. No, that's fine, that's very good.
Sorry, I don't have my computer.
I know where you are.
Well, and I kind of, when I looked at it, back to the wages and garbage and stuff, I just kind of ignored those increases, cause like. It's not like we can just not collect the garbage, so I was just
Yeah.
treating that as nothing to do about, but, the Gateway Park project and. The extra planting, one-time beautification initiative. I don't remember if we approved something like
We
that in
haven't.
parks,
No,
so.
not yet, that hasn't been approved. No.
So then I wouldn't budget
No, but I
for,
knew that it was, could be put in the budget,
yeah, it's an item that looks like it
Full
might
disclosure,
be
yes.
needed,
but it
but
needs.
if we're holding flat, that would be a
No,
new
it needs to be
thing.
right.
And I wasn't sure, do one-time changes like that belong more in like a SIP kind of thing? Or is it, because that's not really a regular budgeted item, like this would be a one-time big increase for that 1 year when it's done, and then it would come back out. But
Yes
kind of the
and-
way we're
well,
looking
yes-
at the
yes and no,
projects, that
because-
doesn't really. flow
Yes and
well.
no, because currently the parks team isn't really maintaining Gateway Park very well. So if it has to be ongoing, then it's not sure. There's two ways to look at it, but either way,
But it sounds like most of this is a big, the weed and nuisance
go-
control, and extra hire, and it's a big initial investment, and then
Yeah.
it goes down. to
we'd be
a-
outsourcing it, it's not higher, it could be, but I don't know if it's SIP for it, to tell you the truth. But we would take, because he gave us a quote, and we're not gonna be able to do it, so it comes out.
We already talked about the hot water for the wash bay.
What are other contracted services again? I don't remember. That's on top of the weed control where you.
Right, that was the next one, and that, we have a fairly large budgeted amount, but it doesn't seem like we spend in that category really ever. Like it's a very small historical spend.
Well, we've
That's
never,
what the gardener's coming out of this year. Dave.
oh, okay, that was approved. All
So
right,
that, so we will have a much higher spend this
Yeah,
year.
he doesn't have all his invoices. Before it was Bob Boltman just coming out of there.
yeah, but he has a budget too, and he'll stay on his budget. So you could
I
still,
thought that budget was like 6,000 or something, wasn't it? Well, for some reason, I'm remembering like a 6,000 number
I have to go back and look at it.
for the extra.
I can go back and look at it, but you shouldn't,
61.
6,100.
61 and then Bob was 25.
Oh, so that Bob's in there, so you should just plan that flat. Not a,
I always like to give a little, just in case.
well, it's doubled. So we should probably just plan it at 8,500. And we take Dan out of that.
So we're adding I'm not saying that we shouldn't do that, we shouldn't have some contingency built in, but let's have a standard contingency on there, so when we look at an item, we know that 10% of it is contingency, 5% of it's contingency. If we're going to do that, if we can't put it in a separate contingency item,
I think no more than 5, maybe 3.
Please, can I please double check with you? So account 100,536,40,200 other contract services would like to be budgeted at 8,500.
100, say it again, 53640,200, right?
Yes, other contracted
The
services,
current budget is 8,500, right? For
No,
26,
the 2026 budget.
and the 2 people are in there, Dan and Bob Boltman.
Yeah, and if you guys don't go with the addition for the weed and nursery.
Let's just
control
stay with this one
and
right now.
contracted services at $5,000, then yeah, it will drop back down to the 85.
Okay, so take that to 85. What's in weed control that's, to Jerry's point, that's higher, that much higher?
That's what Dan had come up with for around the schoolhouse. And to refresh the ground beds and
Basically a complete redo of
Yeah.
that area.
yeah. That was 9,500 that he had estimated.
So that's plus the 7,
So
and we don't know if we're gonna need that full budget for
yeah,
26.
plus the 7 that's in there currently for the plants and the flowers that go into like the post office and the village hall.
We have all of our bills for that, don't we, from Jerry's? Didn't you tell me we have all our
I
bills in
believe,
for that?
I believe Jerry's is caught up, yeah.
Which means our spend's at 1,350,
But we're still waiting for Bob's,
okay, but he's like 2,400, right?
something like that, yeah.
All right, so that's 37, let's say 3,800 on a budget of 7. So I would also plan that at 7
why would we even do it 7? I mean, like
or 6.
So you just said it was 3,700 total, what we're projecting for this year?
About, I don't know where Bob will be for, not Bob, yeah,
So, okay, so let's just say that's 4,000, let's put a 10% contingency on it, let's put that to 4,400.
okay.
I think a 10% contingency, if you wanna push for the 5%, okay, I could be swayed, but I think that.
So 10%, how many times on how many different line items are we talking?
That's a fair, and that's why I say I'm putting it on there for easy math,
Yeah,
but
Almost
I'm
like
saying.
you need to set a star on each item that gets contingency, and then we know that it's 10% or something.
Or,
yeah,
or
because that can kill you.
maybe we'll say 5%.
But our
then.
budget goes 10%.
Well, but I mean, that's what we're doing right now, at least we're identifying. it.
Yeah, sure.
I don't even know what best practice is, to tell you the truth, because I don't know if we've ever done that. I don't mean that we've never done best practice. What I mean is, I don't know if we ever have. I didn't mean that at all. What I meant was that I don't know if we've ever had a standard operating procedure for, okay, in general, let's do 3 to 5%. So 3's fine.
So
Inflation.
here's a question I was gonna ask earlier on this. So let's say we put in the village budget that Bridget's committee approves, we put $100,000 contingency. You know, a 10% contingency would be 350,000, so that's a lot.
Yeah.
So let's say we put $100,000 contingency and we put in a line item that says contingency. And the Department of Revenue doesn't like it. I guess, so what? What happens? Do they just make your life miserable or what?
Well, it's the auditors, right?
They will make your life miserable, but also it's against our policy because our policy tailored toward the budget categories. That's why we do amendments and adjustments. So. And policy sort of follows the DOR input. So we do need to budget within the category, and then toward the end of the year, we need to make sure category do not exceed in expenditure $5,000, over $5,000.
But we have gone over in budgets in the past.
We did, but last year, I proposed the adjustment, not necessarily amendment.
You did, and that was an efficient way to do it. Why
Yes.
couldn't we just do the same thing?
And correct, yes, yeah, and it's really applied toward the wages allocation. So again, at the end of the year, we will see where the wages got overexpended, where they are underexpended. And I will propose the adjustment without deepening into reserves.
So do you remember that, Nathan?
Yeah, I do.
I thought it was a very efficient way to, we were close, right? You came to finance and you said, look, we were off by, it wasn't a lot. It was way less than 10%.
It was $100,000.
It was $100,000.
But you know, there was zero effect on the budget.
Right.
So just like moving around, and that's what's pretty much going to happen this year too. Due to the wages for the most part, but also unexpected electric and gas expenses and other expenses too.
I just can't understand what CLA, why they would have an issue with one line item on the village budget called contingency.
Because you might use that contingency for different
You-
categories.
You will.
Could we call it, do we want to spend more time talking about this? Because I have other questions, other thoughts.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah, 'cause
I mean,
we have to
I-
make some,
Yeah,
I
we
would
have
like,
40 minutes.
Yeah,
to
that's
this
fine.
Budget and the other one. Okay,
go ahead.
Jerry, anything else?
No, that was my short list.
That was a long, there were a lot of dollars associated to that.
Those are they're big items. And I'll also admit that I did use Claude to help and it was extremely helpful.
Yep, I
And
used
we
to.
don't- If we don't have
It's very helpful.
account for the village, I think, you know,
We should.
No kidding.
Ben could probably get a lot of advantage from.
they got co-pilots.
Copilot can be,
I don't like Copilot.
Copilot can be-
You got a Claude or a chat GPT, I think.
Much.
All right,
But I know Vlad also does make extensive use of it.
yeah,
Everything wherever I can get.
Oh my God, it's
Yes.
amazing.
I do want to ask you a
Yeah.
question. So what have you decided on the account for weed control? Are we keeping it at 16? Obviously not. It's not 7 either. So what is it? 4,400?
4,200 if we're gonna do 5%.
It's fine.
and then it's kind of back to the baseline, and if it would have to come through the normal flow for a special project.
Yeah.
Um,
And we might induce ourselves to do more work by doing that, but I think that's fine. So,
Maybe we stick a couple memorial benches up there and use the overage to cover, you know, there's,
yeah,
there's options.
Not for sure, yeah. We just started the program.
And I think Eric, for that one, that's more a capacity thing, right? Like how many Bob
Yeah,
it can
and
commit to.
Vlad, I don't know if you just heard him ask, he brings up a good point, something I've been thinking about too. As we're just re-engaging this program, we are under the assumption that we're going to get this amount of people to want to re-up, because there's 70 out there. So we're shooting for this number. We don't have this specific number reached yet as far as
Yeah, so it's a
reserve
bit
benches.
inflated. Okay.
So as we get further into this startup process with this program again, we'll have a lot better understanding of how people are gonna be reacting to the new cost.
Yeah, how many are gonna re-up, how many might sit idle while we wait for new applications?
Yes.
All
What we have done is we have kicked off the wait list process, because I do have enough in the budget currently to get 2 more built this year. But we're waiting on
Because almost all of the current ones are expired.
Almost all of them are expired. But, you know, and now we're starting to reach out to those people too, to say, hey, do you wanna re-up? And then it's, you know, all in client, all working with the.
So
wait list.
16 is really your best guess at this time, and we'll have to go through that process some the rest of this year to know what that realistically
Yeah.
looks like. Do you know, oh, well, okay, we're off track, never mind.
So then another question, so now I'm on Public Works budget and I'm on page 17.
One more thing about that.
Sure.
Do you guys, you think 16 is too much? Is that number too high that, you know, we don't have 16 lined up? That can be reduced.
To me, since they're all expired, I'd like to see it turn over faster, but again, it's back to what you said, is that realistic or not? We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
And it's gonna also depend on Bob's throughput and ability to commit as
Right.
well.
It's our best estimate, and I think it's a valid estimate. I think we're not gonna get anything better than that, so I think
Yeah.
we should stick
How-
with
What
it.
with it.
what do we have out there totally?
70 some,
70 some, okay. Yeah.
give
16
or
sounds
take,
reasonable. Yeah.
74, I
Yeah.
think.
So, just so everyone on the same page, I will budget 16 times 3,000 in revenue for memorials. Plus,
Yeah, with the subtractions for the actual costs, which is what's listed here.
the subtraction is gonna go through expenditure account. That's gonna be the subtraction.
Yeah, however it's done. You're the expert.
So for Public Works budget, I'm on page 17 and I'm under seasonal decorations. So we have a budget this year of 5,000 and we haven't spent anything yet. So it's repairs and maintenance. I'm assuming you're repairing or maintaining some of the decorations for holiday and just haven't done it yet. I don't know. And the budget is 2,000 for 2027. So I would suggest that you cut you don't budget anything for 27. We've never budgeted anything in that category. We did spend in 24 without a budget. Well, actually, there could have been a budget there, but we've never really spent anything in that category. And I'm not quite sure of what that was for.
What code is that for, Louise?
53322 and then 361.
So there's a remaining of 2,000 in there for the 2027.
We're saying zero.
Right, but for 26, you have a budget of 5,000,
Yeah.
nothing's been spent. What would you spend it on?
I have no issue with reducing that down to 0. That's fine.
So is that, so.
I have been trying to reduce seasonal decorations since I've taken over this position.
Yep.
There's been committee members that have refused to move. Those are committee member numbers. Those aren't mine. I'm just trying to gradually.
So we're saying zero, so let's go. with it.
Yeah,
Okay, that's
Let's move on.
0, so that's $2,000, I'm gonna keep track. All right, then, let's see. Touch wages, there was something else, okay, under. What category is this? Storm sewer maintenance. So we have repairs and maintenance, I'm sorry, 18. There's a budget for 5,000, now it's storm sewer, so I don't wanna fool with it, but. There's a budget for 5,000 and we didn't spend anything in 25. In 26, so far,
We spent a large amount in 24. This looks like must be linked to a targeted, like, replace these things. There's a big spend in 24,
I see it, yeah,
nothing 25, nothing in 26. A higher
So far.
budget for 26 and then a lower budget for
26 is coming in as the county is filling out invoices for Gateway.
So just
There's also Judith Blazer by the daycare that
Okay.
that was supposed to be done in 25.
all right,
That just didn't get done.
that's fine, I don't
So-
wanna fuss with
so these
that.
are kind of linked somewhere else to specific projects.
Yeah,
Okay, I don't want, cause I really don't wanna fuss with,
2027, I got nothing right now. That's why I dropped back down to just a placeholder of 5,000 in case we need something to have.
It's 2027 is what I'm reading.
right,
For which one?
Repairs and maintenance.
Repairs and maintenance, okay.
yeah, it's a lot less.
So, Trey, I have something on 18.
Yeah, go,
We have IT support for the storm sewer maintenance. It's at 3150. And we've not used any of that since 24. Do we need that in that category?
No.
Does it need to go somewhere else, or
No,
is it just over?
Do we need electric and gas for that?
So you're on 17 or 18? Nate?
18. I'm just looking for ones that have got $0 and 25, like, do we need, why?
And $0 and 26.
Yeah,
We haven't spent anything since, yeah. So do we need electric and gas for that, Eric?
for storm sewer, I would imagine not.
Okay,
It seems like maybe in the past there was some sort of averaging of bills over functions or something. And that must have changed in 25 for those.
I'm trying to, open up general ledger and see how it was coded.
I think I'm comfortable moving on from that one, but
Yeah,
we
yeah.
gotta get through there, I think that
Yeah,
that's,
basically
it'd
those,
be good to know.
those should just probably be crossed out.
Mhm.
I've never billed anything out of those.
yeah, we can see that. Mhm. Okay, I'm now, unless somebody, I'm gonna keep moving on to culture.
So can I have another
Of
one
course, yeah, Stefan, sure.
on 18?
Yep.
We've also got medical supplies. $75. I think that.
Oh, this is public transportation?
Yeah.
That's the bus, so they, I mean, no, we have a first aid kit there that we've never used, so
Public transportation.
Let's,
it's if we ran out of something.
let's not budget any, if we're not spending money, let's not budget money. I understand $75, but
And same with general supplies, I mean, both of
Yeah.
those could be zero.
yeah,
Or miscellaneous there.
I'm not sure what the miscellaneous is, it's $960, I don't know what goes into that.
I can break that down.
Over the past 5 years, we've spent out of it once.
Right, we
Yeah,
just,
it's
spend the bus doesn't, brand new, we don't spend a lot on it.
well,
And we did submit, broke down of her proposed.
Okay,
Budget.
what are other contracted services for the bus? Because we haven't spent so much this year and in 25 we only spent $559 and it's budgeted at 2,100. I'm not sure who we,
It gets its full service oil changes down there. And Sturge. It's actually
$4,100?
No,
That's, no,
2,100.
yeah, gas, oil and fuel is 4,500. There's 2,100 for other contracted services. And we haven't spent anything like that ever.
Well, we spent a little less than 625 and have spent a little less than 800 year to date. That feels like more
So
like
it's a
that.
GPS tracker.
That was already bought, we don't buy it again.
There is some kind of, service that comes.
Oh, you pay that, yeah,
Also
that's probably the $792.
breaking down of miscellaneous expenses, vehicle registration 85, fire extinguisher 75, drug testing 400, cleaning supplies 400, that's all.
Oh, this is in the miscellaneous, okay.
Yes.
so why would we have that, that has not made it into the budget, that has not made it into 26 yet?
It is, and I mean, some of it,
Well, you're saying that's the budgeted amount, but we haven't spent
Yeah,
those.
correct, so some of it we did, it just.
Oh, it hasn't been billed.
It just recently, you can probably track it down on the report that I gave you.
Well, it sounds like we could take other contracted services down to 1,000. Right now, we spent 800, I don't know what else would be coming in for it.
It's probably got one more service change this year.
No, that goes into gas, oil and fluids.
we should also probably adjust gas, oil and fluids down to at least 4,000 if we were at actual of 33.
Well, let's try to stay with one category. Okay, so for gas, oil and fluids, we spent $62 so far. And last year we spent 3,400. We're budgeted 4,500. I know gas is up. So I don't know why we haven't, maybe they haven't submitted. They haven't submitted receipts for gas or something, I don't know.
They do submit in these contracted services, shuttle stop sign and
Gas, oil and fluids, let's stay with that.
braking cards.
gas, oil and fluids. So far for the year, we've spent $62 on a budget of 4,500. For category 301, 53520-301. We've spent $62 on a category of 4,500. Then we're prime season now. They should have submitted a bunch of gas. So maybe they just holding on to receipts or.
What if we look at the 25 number and understand the gas has gone up, but that is not strictly a gas number? Right,
It's just oil and fluids, so it's oil changes and stuff like that. I mean, we can keep it at 3,500, I don't know.
I think we should probably have it increased at least. I think 4,000 makes more sense to me, understanding that that's.
Okay. So category 200 under public transportation, Vlad, the budget's 2,100. So far for the year, we've spent, I'm rounding it up to 800. We spent $560 in 25. Can we take that down to 1,000?
We can.
Okay, so that's 1,100.
One thing I mentioned about gas, oil and fluids, I know for sure there were receipts from bus drivers, from Steve, from
Yeah.
Jeanette, from,
Sure,
because I was reaching out to them to collect the missing ones.
yeah,
I'm gonna have to go through, maybe let Sarah submit that through AP, she used different code,
oh, all right,
but for sure. The usage, not $62.
yeah, I know, it's gotta be more than that. And if they're, well, sometimes when they get filled up at Birdos will invoice us.
Yeah, we need
But
to do that.
Birdos, I mean, Denise is invoicing us if they're, believe me, you're getting your invoices, it's just pretty on top of that. All right, so I'm gonna move on.
Lowering contracted services to $1,000.
Okay, now I'm gonna go to culture.
So then, do we also agree that gas, oil, fluids was going to 4,000?
Yeah.
Okay,
Uh,
and then we're gonna strike medical safety supplies?
Yeah.
Is there anything else in there that we want to adjust?
Not for the bus.
I mean, maintenance and repairs, I think that's high.
Hold on.
Nate, can you repeat that again? The gas, oil and fluids for
4,000. 0 for medical.
Well, it's a new bus. So if you don't wanna do 1350, you never know what's gonna, but, so if you wanna, yeah, I mean, you gotta have some kind of 750.
500.
Okay, 850, so 500 for that.
Say it again, which company?
Category 53520-363. We'll go from 1350 to 500. Anything else for public works?
Were we striking miscellaneous or were we adjusting that? I think at most it should be 300.
We haven't spent anything on anything, so 300. All right, so category 53520-408, Vlad, which is miscellaneous under public transportation.
Do we say 300? I mean, what, do we even need that in there at all? And it's not being
It seems
used.
like a weird one-time. thing.
And also,
I don't know. what it was
24.
in 24.
is that not just,
It was there.
could not also be called contingency, not to go down that rabbit hole too far?
All right, go to 0, and then if we've got a problem, we'll figure it out.
So 408.
Yep.
400
0.
0.
or
Zero.
0. And 363. Lowering down from 1,350 to
500.
500.
I don't think there's anything else I think is adjusted.
Okay, I'm on page 20 for culture. Okay, culture's short, it's 4 pages, so let's take a look and see if there's anything there, because we
We
have,
already wrote down the things on 19, right?
Yep. And I think we did. Let me see if I think we did 20 as well. That was library, yeah.
We're still waiting for the library to get back to us with their budget.
Okay. Whoa, wait a second, so. With their budget, but that wouldn't be part of this, right?
Yeah, it's going to be part of the account 100-55-110-200 other contracted services that the library support.
So further down on the page is where the parks specifically starts. So if we're looking at CRE parks, that would be where the start of. And then technically for SBA support, that is attributed from parks on there too.
Okay.
So I think for the SBA, the only ones I'd look at would be the last two, because there's. No spend in 24, 25, or 26, and there's still budgeted amounts. I think we should zero those.
So that's category 362 and 401, Vlad,
362.
and 401. One is grounds repair and maintenance, the other is custodial supplies. They look like they're just placeholders, you guys. There's never been any spend.
And that's how we,
And
Mhm.
One other thing, if we could go back to. There's a category, I'm not sure what this is, so it's CRE, other culture and organizations. It's category number 55190-200. So this is another miscellaneous other culture. It's again, it's kind of a jigsaw budget over the years. And we budgeted 2,500, but haven't spent anything this year. Last year we spent $568. What's weird is,
Apologize, what page are you on?
I'm sorry, I'm on page 20. So if you go to category 55190, other culture and organizations. So in there is historical, coastal byways in Seldora County. There's a miscellaneous other culture as well.
2,500.
I can definitely tell you what was expense from that account, just a second.
Well, there's nothing, we haven't spent any so far for 2026, the budget was 2,500.
I think it was back in the day, last year Denise suggested and everyone agreed. There was Sunshine,
Resources,
I think shredding services came out from it.
okay, so when we did, because we had shredding services this year,
Yes, and.
but they didn't charge us, right? They don't
Uh,
charge to
That
shred.
just happened like a few weeks ago, or maybe a week ago. So yeah, that was budgeted for the shredding services,
Okay,
kind of like sort of contingency,
in case they charged us, you mean?
yes.
Oh,
In
okay.
case either we're gonna do our own, or we're gonna.
Yes, we weren't sure, because there was that, oh, yeah, thing with Liberty Grove. So we could probably take that out, right?
I mean, if we're going to discontinue this program, then.
We are
yes.
gonna have shredding was anticipated for 27.
Okay, we had shredding this year, though.
We had Liberty Grove.
We share.
Oh, so we would just do our own, you mean, here, and not in Liberty Grove?
But Liberty Grove, they're doing like combined between Village of Sisters
Yep.
and Liberty Grove.
Yep.
And then they're billing us out, that's where the expense comes out from this account,
Okay,
paying part of whatever they're charging us.
okay,
So
And we did the same thing in 25?
25, we had our own.
Okay, so that 568 from 25 was our own.
and they just haven't billed us yet for this year,
Um,
because there's no spend
they
for
didn't
this year.
bill us yet,
Yeah, but we think it's gonna be $2,500.
more or less.
Okay, thank you.
568, it was Sunshine House.
That's when they did it.
Yes.
This year was different.
so I'm gonna go out there and propose that we increase Sisters Historical. By something this year.
Oh. Okay,
They asked for 30,000. I don't know that we have that. I think that we should at least.
pretty
increase
clearly,
it to-
right now, in everything we just talked about with what we've been talking about right now is $11,645.
I get that.
Why do we wanna give them so much more?
But I'm saying they asked for 30,000, I think that we should at least up it to 20,000.
What did they, I can't remember what their ask was.
Believe it was 30.
No, but what do they want the money for? Can we justify it to the village
Oh, right.
residents?
Well, I think they wanted for a variety of things that are happening at Corner of the Past,
Yeah, according to
So-
operations.
their operations basically, yeah.
And we're sure we can just donate this money to that third party entity.
So.
Oh, that's not
yes,
this.
That,
Oh,
yes,
you mean
we
this
can,
part.
like, but that's not this thing. This is something we've done in the past. We, we have been supporting Sister Bay Historical for a long time. We donated property to them.
Yeah,
They
Is there
are,
question-
because they're in the community good, we can do that. Now, whether we should do it, that's a fair question, but we can do it.
Oh, I think we should. Without a doubt, I think we should. I think, was your question about the barn?
no,
Okay.
my question is, they're not a village entity,
Mhm.
and I believe we have to be a little careful with how we make contributions to to NGOs.
So we can, because there's a couple things that they have to have in their mission statement. They have to be for the public good, which I think Sister Bay Historical clearly makes that.
Yeah.
They clear that hurdle. Now, if that was like, if it was you have to be a member of Sister Bay Historical to use any of their services, that absolutely would be not in the public good, but I think they're in the public good. And keep in mind, the Corner of the Past was a donation from the village in the past
Okay.
to Sister Bay Historic, so one of the reasons they exist, because the village did donate that.
I mean, I don't have an issue with this, but I did have an issue with the big number they asked.
I know.
Well, and some of that quite honestly is, okay, well, we didn't get this big number to you, but I think that we should say that yes, we want to support you, and I think that something was really what I would like to see happen. I mean, yeah, we can't do $15,000 after what we just hit, what we're dealing with, but and I also think that if we can't hit our number, that should be the first $5,000 we pull out, but I also wonder, on top of it, is this a decision that Parks, Properties and Streets should make, or is this something that finance should make? Because ultimately that's seems like a more appropriate time to make that decision, because we're not interfacing with Sister Bay Historical and we don't have any special connection to them.
It probably should be a board decision.
Oh, so finance.
I would support it as a trustee, frankly, but
I would like it as a board decision because those are all elected officials that have to be, they're representing the village taxpayers, and if a board member feels that they're, the citizens want them to do it, well, then they should vote for it. If they think they don't, and then they should vote against it, and it should be a matter of public records, or people know what people are voting for.
So I think it's a matter of us calling out at the board level when we vote, but also I'd say like everything that we're deciding is ultimately gonna go to the elected officials.
Yeah,
So,
that's a good point.
but
We've
yeah,
had that discussion before, you're right.
I think that that's a fair thing to say, and I mean, I can tell you that I'll remember to bring it up. I think you likely will too, Louise, when
Yeah.
it comes up, so
yeah, I will.
I'd like to see us put it in there, 20,000. Again, understanding that if we don't hit our number, or we can't hit our number, we're off, that's probably the first thing that we've gotta pull.
Okay. I'm on page 24. And on the sports complex and recreation facilities. I'm at the bottom of that category. 55400-366.
Well,
I'm sorry, do you have others?
you mean Sister Bay Advancement Support? That was another one where we've got grounds repair maintenance.
I thought we already did that one, no?
We did hit that one? I thought we did that on another category. If
Yeah,
we did that
we
one,
talked
okay.
about wages and overtime support, but not the other.
Yeah, so we've got the two bottom items
You're
there.
back on 21.
Yeah, 21.
Oh, sorry, I thought we already did that one, beg your pardon. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm just saying those
We
last
did
two items should zero out. Cause it's nothing in 25, nothing in 26.
So glad those are categories, category numbers under SBAAR 55193, but they're categories 362 and 401. $200 and $300 respectively.
Just a second. 362, it's gonna be, 0.
Yes.
And 401, 0.
Correct. Okay, on page 22, we went through those, that's general supplies, memorial supplies, right?
One other thing is chemicals, I think we should strike. I know it's $100, but it's also another one of those patterns where nothing in 25, nothing in 26.
What page?
Yeah, that's 55200. 402. And the budget's 100.
Does conference and meetings fall in that category too then?
What does, where is it? Oh, I see that.
333.
It does.
Well, I don't know, I mean, education's important, what about conferences and meetings?
So we do attend the WRPA conference. I couldn't get there this year. For conference with all the moving we had to do, I just couldn't
Okay.
justify
Are
getting
you
out
planning
there.
on attending next year?
We are planning to attend
Okay.
When is the last time you attended?
In 25.
So we don't have any,
We don't really spend.
we don't have any spend in 25, so we must have pulled that out of something else. So I'm not saying it's not worthy to go, but if that's coming out of somewhere else, we don't need to budget it here.
What page are you on?
We're on page
22.
22. The category number is 55200 331.
About 333, you mean?
Sorry, 333.
So 1,000.
Right, but if that's what it's gonna cost and you need to go to it,
Well,
we're
yeah,
asking is,
but they went.
That,
Build it in 25.
yeah, I
It came out
actually
of
put
another
together a consolidation on things. That was one of the codes that, so we do our meetings out of Public Works. So yeah, the money that's budgeted for that conference comes out of Public Works. So that one can go to zero
okay,
there.
okay. I don't see anything else on page 22 unless somebody else does.
And 402, did you say, on this page goes to 0 to?
Yes, yes, please. So for the sports complex, here's a
Yeah.
question, under building maintenance. You got a budget for, 2,000, I'm on page 24, beg your pardon. You got a budget for 2,000, you haven't spent anything, and we didn't spend anything in 25.
That's just more of a placeholder if something goes wrong with the buildings.
You, at the end of everything is balanced out between, ground maintenance and building maintenance, because one was, under budgeted, the other one went over. So it helped out in category bottom line.
So if we can keep 361 and 362, can't we just take 366 away and plan
Yeah.
0?
You can.
I don't know.
It was another part of my consolidations that I had asked and I put together for Ben and Vlad.
Glad, does that make sense?
It does.
Okay,
So 3660.
correct.
Do we already hit 352?
352, minor equipment, what is that?
Minor equipment can be anything as far as tools, shovels that are out there being utilized. Other larger equipment.
Okay, take that to 0.
Yeah, 'cause that could come out of general supplies.
That can come out of general.
And I think that's it for culture, rec, and education. I think my math is off slightly, but I think that was about $16,000.
Well, and with the big hitter items we talked about earlier.
Without the big
You didn't
figure
have
items, right, so it could have been,
Numbers.
yeah, that would have been bigger numbers, probably if that was 16, what, 20, should have 36,000 maybe?
I think more than that, but
Yeah.
Okay,
we already talked about it.
all right.
Now we're to Nate's electrical with the bike trail.
Yeah, well, how are we spending any money on electric on the bike trail? The only thing I can think of is there's a couple fixtures by the Piggly Wiggly.
Like the streetlights or something?
Oh, there's like the littler
The
lights. that are
mood
meant to-
lights.
But that's, I mean, like, it's not,
We spent $1,000 so far. Prior year was 2,000, budgeted 2,000 this year. I don't know what we spent, but. This is page 24.
Is there like 1 meter for the,
Yeah, there is actually one, that allocate, like, once we receive, invoice from the WPS. Literally allocates out.
is like Gateway Park or something on that? Somehow, meter?
No, Gateway's got its own.
So either we've got a problem with it, there's something else pulling power from that, because there's no way those lights, I mean, if you added all the lights together.
But it's interesting because in 24 and 25, it was $2,000 that was spent. So something else has to be going into that,
I think that we probably need to leave it allocated, but we need to figure out
what it is.
what it is, because I
Yeah.
don't think that's an accurate allocation.
Okay. Do repairs and maintenance for the bike trail have to be, continue to be 2,500? We haven't spent anything yet.
No,
The whole thing can go away, or?
yeah,
Disagree, hard disagree. We've allocated funds there in the last several years. We've not done any maintenance on that trail.
So you're.
In the last meeting, Eric even said, okay, well, we can go out there and do hot mix. We need to allocate funds to that. I do think we can drop the general to 0. We could probably drop that to 1,500, but we should allocate something to maintain.
You're saying
a
actually
20-year-old
do the
trail.
maintenance? on
Yes.
this? Well,
cold patching can come out of streets, maybe to allocate, just a bucket full of patch for, the bike trail. Doesn't make any sense.
We have
It
8
just-
minutes.
It can just
So-
come right out of the streets when we
I
buy
think that-
patch.
So you're saying 0 it out and you're gonna handle those
I
repairs?
think Dave wants the category there because
Yes.
he wants it visible and he wants to know that it's, which I do get.
But I understand we also don't even have 2,500. We can, and we don't
Take it
need
down.
general supplies, or we just kill generals, we kill repair and maintenance and just have a general supplies at 1,500 per bowl. So we still cut it.
If you wanna cut repairs and maintenance down to 0, keep general at 500 or 100.
1,500?
Oh, 1,500, you're gonna need more than 100, aren't you?
Yeah, 1,500.
All right, so the combined right now is 3,000. If it goes down to 1,500, then it's a $1,500 save.
So can I ask one question going the other way? This isn't one of the productive questions. This may be anti-productive. To Ben or Vlad, how much is in the parks budget for 27 for repaving streets in Sister Bay?
100,000.
That's good.
And what's our typical spend on repaving streets?
It changes.
We've been trying to get 100,000
Yeah.
every year, but we haven't done anything the last 2 years. That money's been allocated to different funds.
But we are gonna do it this year, right? You've got
That's the hope.
quotes, you've got quotes.
But haven't we done big projects outside of that instead, like the Cardinal Court and,
No, Cardinal never got approved.
oh,
Cardinal was done last year. Coastal, Cardinal, and Bluebird didn't get approved,
What's gonna happen with Flint Ridge when we? That was done. I assume that was a Liberty Grove thing.
Glen Ridge was a shared project between Liberty Grove, that's been done.
but they're gonna
Guys,
bill
we
us at
Okay.
some point.
I'm with you, but that's one that our citizens are asking about.
So
Are
that
we
is-
keeping up on maintaining the streets?
No,
That's a future agenda item, and that's a discussion. at-
Well, I
at
get it.
finance.
Okay, but but 100,000 is typically what we put in the budget and that's what's in this budget.
that's what we've tried to get 100,000 approved for the last several years, but we have not been able to get that approved.
Did that
even
get
to-
mixed after parks last year? Because we went through that. We
I think
gave
it
it,
died in finance.
We went road by
Yeah,
road.
it was approved in part.
It was approved, it died in finance, or the board, I can't remember.
No, it would have been finance.
The road repair is part of the CAP
Right,
expenditure.
it's in SIP.
so it wouldn't be in, the 100,000 is just maintenance. Is that what you're saying?
And repair.
As far as updated pricing, Mike. They don't even come out anymore to give me updated, they just say add a percentage because they're tired of coming
Yeah,
out
I
and
get
not getting anywhere with us. So now I just have to add percentages.
Okay. Sorry.
No, no, don't apologize. All right, so the action that will be, so I just want to make sure that, Ben, you understand, like, what you feel the next action to be taken is, so that we're all on the same page.
Before we get there, the ice rink stuff, doesn't that all need to be redone now that it's been turned over to Friends of the Ice Rink? And there's a ton of expenditures in here in the budget. But I thought it was, we do a one-time handover to them and they handle more or less everything.
can point out or that, $52,000 will be transferred out from, general fund into ice rink, but we still sort of paying, wages and associated costs with it. And then once $52,000 expanded out, I mean, we're still gonna go over and cover everything until we're going to reconcile and present the differences to them. They will reimburse us for the difference. So we're still budgeting accordingly. It doesn't, answering Ben's question initially at the beginning of the meeting. It only $52,000 represents as part of the general budget, not the whole budget. Or not the whole ice rink budget, only $52,000 out of that is included into general village budget. Does that make sense?
Okay,
Understanding we have 3 minutes, I would say that I would recommend we leave the directive that anything that doesn't have anything spent in 25 or 26 be removed even if we haven't directly talked about it.
yeah, I mean.
I don't think there's much more, but there's a couple
Well,
things. Is that clear to you?
Took
Len?
good notes, but anything that we may have missed.
Does that make sense?
Just, can we elaborate?
So if there's an item on there that we have not discussed. And there's $0 were expended in 25, and there's $0 in 26. We should get rid of we should zero it out for 27.
For the whole entire parks budget, or
Line by line,
Things we have not talked about yet.
because we're not gonna,
If we, because we're running on time, if we missed anything, you would like to go back. Double
We'll go
check it
through it.
and then zero it out. Things we've talked about, just stay as is.
when can we work together on it?
Okay, so, Ben, next steps will be. What?
Restating that, or are you asking?
No, I'm asking you. So next steps, what do you think the next step should be?
Yeah, so what we can do, so if we're really just slicing it down, Vlad and I are gonna be going through and besides anything that would be associated with wages or things that would be fixed costs, we're gonna be looking at it and getting that reduced, and then anything that was not spent for a category, we'll remove it down to zero as well, and we can send out what that end result would be for those funds that were covered under parks.
Can I clarify?
Oh, okay.
Some of the bills might not gonna come in later this year, are you referring to 2025 budgeted and not spent, and 2026 accordingly?
yes, so if there's no spend in 25 or 26.
Okay.
So not just saying because there's things that we may not have gotten billed for in 26, I know we can't do that. That's why I'm including the 25 in there too.
Thank you.
All right, so you guys will rework the budget based on the cuts that the committee made, as well as the directive that we just gave relative to 25 and 26 zero spend items. And then turn it around and send it to us so that the meeting packet we can't meet again, so.
So it won't be
At least
for
we have
approval.
it won't be for approval, but we can have some visibility, because the meeting packet for finance, I think, would need to go out by Tuesday, right?
Yes.
Today?
So can we empower the chair to review that and just make sure you're not trying to put your ideas on there, but just make sure that you see that what we talked about was implemented.
Yeah,
For you
sure,
to review that. Is everybody comfortable with that?
sure.
Mike?
Yeah,
So then you're gonna get it to the chair part so you can,
So I would need it, well, I don't know when the packet's going out, but preferably I need it, today, Wednesday. So it would be at the latest Monday.
And we'll work on it this week preparing.
at 1 o'clock, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I gotta make one last comment, it'll only take a minute. Ben, I think when you started this, I got your point. That we should be considering the levy capacity, so we don't lose future levy capacity. I get that that's the point you made. And I heard it. I think what the community is asking is us to be very efficient in spending, and we should spend what we need to spend on what's required to maintain services on the critical services. So there's a difference. And that difference drove our desire to set a starting point for zero cost increase by the category. And it may well be that this creates a levy issue for us in the future because of the state's limitation on levy. We get it. But I think we have a responsibility as a Parks Committee and a Finance Committee to manage our finances very conservatively. Because we've had years where we didn't, and it caused us a lot of gas. I just wanted you to hear that.
Thanks, Mike. Our next regular meeting, just to remind everyone, it is gonna be the 8th at 1 p.m. here as normal. That'll be a 1 to 3 meeting, so we'll have time to get out to Lagerquist by 3:30 for walking tour. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I second Nate's motion to adjourn.
Okay, all in favor?
Hi,
Aye.
thank you.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Vlad. Eric, thanks.
Yep.
Then you guys got another meeting, is that?
I know it's
There,
it's
filters, knitters.
Oh,
I'm after you with the,
So
Wanna get Gab?
what about Sarah's stuff here?
she's gonna come back.
She's coming back.
Okay,
She might be here, actually. I thought I saw. her.
Okay.
She had to man the office because Julie's in the back.
thank you, Vlad.
Thank you. So just give you a little update down at the beach, here in Waterfront, so something else.